This conference will now be recorded.
Hi all. So welcome to performance testing with the JMeter Core to advanced level, right? And uh, today will be day 4. Okay. So talking about the topics. So in day 3, we started the core concept of performance testing. We talked about what is server, what it is type, protocol, right? We started performance testing lifecycle. We talked about the scenarios, what is test scenario, test cases, right? Then we started talking about protocol, HTTPS protocol, okay? And then the browser developer tool, okay? Fine. Then about HTTP, HTML request, and embedded resources. Now we'll continue with the above topics only, okay? And yeah, so yesterday, like so what I was talking is that whenever we do a user action, right, or a transaction on a web application, fine. So there is a HTML request generated to the in the form of URL to the server, right? And in return, the server sends us the response. Response is always in code format, okay, code or text format. When this code or text response comes to our browser, right, comes to our browser from the server, the browser renders this code or process this code, and it makes that website or that page beautiful. Fine. In that process of rendering, there are some resources called embedded resources, which are set of CSS file, JS file, okay, this JPEG, JPG, GIF, PNG, SVG, uh, uh, EXD fonts, icons, favicons. These all are there, right? Which also gets, you can say they got downloaded. You can say, okay, they are called downloaded, embedded resources downloaded, right? And uh, they why they are there, because they helps in having that page beautiful, right? There are different functionality are there, like CSS file will help in the beautification of the page. Then JavaScript helps in doing some logical functionality on the web page on user side, right? And then images and fonts and other things are there. Okay, fine. We do not worry about embedded resources, do not. Okay, just understand, we do not have to worry about the embedded resources. We have to just understand what we have to worry about is the HTML request. Whenever we do some action, the HTML request that gets generated and the response that is coming, we have to worry about this, right? This also we have to worry, but now, not now, right? Later on. Okay, worry means we have to focus, right? So for now we do not have to focus on embedded resources, but yeah, they are there, right? Now coming to the so we talked about request and response, right? The HTTP protocol has 5 schema, and we talked about request and response. Now we will talk about the headers, right? Headers. So headers, right? Request, response, and header. Just a second. So today is 23. Where is this calendar? Yeah, 23 and 24. I think 3 session will conduct 3 session on next week. Then I think many people will go on leave, right? 1st January Saturday, 2nd January Sunday. Yeah, from 3rd the people will be back. 3rd or 4th. Okay. Yeah, fine. Okay, so see, whenever we do any action, right? So if you remember the yesterday session, whenever I was doing one action, right? Let us say we take the example of Amazon, right? So a URL was generated. URL was generated. This URL was in the form of HTML, right? HTML. It goes to the server, and this will be called as request. Right? This is called a request, and in return the response comes, right? Response comes. Now parallelly, okay. this request and response is divided into further two parts. So yeah, so coming back, request and response, right? So a request and response is a request. We know, right, what is request. Each user action or transaction generates a HTTP HTML request, right, in the form of URL, which is with acts as a request to the server, right? That is the request, and response is the data sent by the server back to the user in reply of his sent request, right? And response will be always in text format or code format, correct? Once the response comes to the browser, it is rendered or it is processed by the browser, and then the web page looks beautiful, and that is the work of the browser, right? Now this request and response is divided into two parts. One is request body and another one is request headers, right? Okay. And same way, the response is divided into two parts. One is response body and another one is response header. So again, we'll go back to Mozilla Firefox only and show the things using Mozilla Firefox. Network tab. Suppose again I'll open Amazon only. Yeah. So suppose I hit the URL, fine. It will be called homepage launch. You can give this transaction name, this user action name. We have to give some name to the user action. So that is homepage launch, right? So when I did that, so if you see on this right hand side in this network tab, right, of dev tool, right, network tab. So this is the request. It's type HTML. So if I click on this, right, if I click on this, so see, this is the request, fine. Parallelly with that request, one more thing goes. That is request header. Okay, request header, fine. So request is divided into two parts: request body and request headers. Request body. Yeah, request body, the request, what will be the so request, you see, there is a request, right? We did something and a URL gets generated, right? That works as a request. Now with this, this will call as a request. Now in request also, the request is divided into two parts: the request body and request header. So this will act as request body, and below you will see it will have request headers, right? Some things are there, we'll come to this, fine. So in request body, what will be there? In request body, generally the URL will be there, the URL that is sent as a request to the server, right? The URL, right? Like again, I'll show you one URL is this one URL is this one. This is the URL, right? The request URL, right? So generally the request URL is will be the part of request body. Sometimes, fine, the request URL. Sometimes this request URL has some body data like form data or user input or uploaded file, which makes the request body. Okay, so normally if you see when you do something, so the request URL will be generated, right? The request, you can say request URL or request. So that will be the part of what request body, right? Request body. And sometime what happens with that request URL, uh, suppose you are doing sign in, right? You are there on sign in. Let us say I'll click on this sign in. Yes, sign in. Okay, so suppose you'll fill something here and you click on continue. So a request will be going, right? So in with that request, the your email ID and mobile phone will be also going to the server, right? So that one will be the request, right? Okay, let me see whether let me enter anything. 6, 8, 10. Let me click on continue. Yeah. So you see here, one request, first request here. The type is HTML document. Let me click on this. So this will be this is the request URL. When I did something, right, I clicked on, after entering the number, I clicked on sign in. So this request URL get generated. Along with that, if you scroll down, uh, here in here only, if you click on request tab, so you see these things are there. These things are there. For now, ignore this stuff. You see the email ID that I entered, actually in place of email ID, I entered the phone number. So that right, that also went to the server. Right. So that's what you are, if you are logging in or you are doing something or you are filling in a form. So the user inputs means what? The input that we send from our side to the application. Server means the application, right? Like the email ID or the password, or suppose you are doing some registration, you are filling your first name, last name, email ID, right? All those things if you are filling and then sending it to the server. So that user input, right? User input, that also comes in as a part of what? Request body. That will be considered as part of what? Request body. Not always, but sometimes, right? Sometimes suppose you are uploading photo or you are uploading some file, right? Let us say you are uploading your resume to, and you are sending to the server, right? To the application, server, application, same thing, right? So that file is also uploaded and going to from your side to the server. So that file will be also part of what? Request body, right? Remember, request is divided into two parts: request body and request headers, right? So we are talking about what will be there in the body. So in body, generally the URL will be there. The request URL is considered as the part of request body. Plus sometime if you are sending the user inputs, right? User input, or suppose you are sending some file, right? So that is also considered as part of request body. Apart from that, the that request has request headers, right? Request headers. Okay, so I'll come to that request header on next slide. Same way, response is also divided into two parts. So response body and response header. So response body will be the data that is returned by the server, which is in text format or the code format, right? So this actually you see this is the page, but this is not the response, right? Response always comes in code format. Let us say I'll click on response here and I'll click on row here, raw. Yeah. So you see the code. Actually, this code. This is the code which comes from the server side to the browser. When I clicked on when I entered the user when I entered the mobile and I click on sign in, right? So the request went, the mobile number also went, and in return this code comes. That right, the code you can say the response will be in the form of code format, HTML code format or text format, right? And then this response is processed or rendered by our browser, which makes our browser looks which makes that response beautiful, right? Rendering correct, that happens. Then so this apply with anything, any request you do. With every request this is there. Now with the response, right, as I said, response, the response, it is again divided into response body, response header. So this body that you see, which is a code format or a text format, that will be the part of response body. And then we have response header. So if you see header tab here, response headers will be there, right? So request body and response body got clear. Now we have request header and response header. Okay, because request is divided into two parts: request body, request header. Response is divided into two parts: response body, response header. And right, and we have talked about what will be the request body, what will be the response body. Now we'll talk about response header, the headers, right? Request headers and response header. So request headers, right? With the request, there are some additional information that goes to the server. If you scroll down, you'll see here, right, in this tab, some these are some additional information which generally we do not understand. right? And there is no need to understand also, but yeah, okay. So these are some additional information which goes to the server with the request body from user end, basically from the browser. So the request that we are sending with that request body, these are some additional information which goes from the browser, right, from the browser with that request body to the server, right? This information includes something like accept, these are common name, right? Accept encoding, accept language, cache control, connection, cookie, JSON ID, tokens, host, referrer, user agent, right? Each request body has request headers. So generally we do not have to remember all this thing. Right? A few common I have kept in the PPT, like you see, accept encoding, accept language, these all things. So you'll see for with every request header, in every request header, these will be common, like accept encoding, language, cache control, connection, length, content type, cookies, right? Your user agent, referrer. These will be there common. These are generally common. So these are, and they have some value. So these are the name of attribute, you can say, and then it has some value, right? We do not have to remember this. So do not get confused that we have to remember this. No, we have to just understand this, or do not get terrified that you have to understand this. What is, no, not required. Okay, we have to just understand this. So every on every website, when you do something, so a request will be generated, and that request will have request body and request header, and in request header you will see these things will be common, right? These names will always be common, but this value, these things will change, and they will change. Okay, few thing you can just remember if you wish, like accept means, you see text HTML, meaning of this is what, in which language or in which format the communication is happening between the browser and the application, right? Like that encoding is their language, which language, it's English, right? Then cache control, this all thing, not necessary, as I said, to remember everything or to understand everything, right? Okay, but a little bit about cookies I'll explain you later on only, right? Host means the main URL, right? URL. User agent means what, using which the using which tool, right? You are using the, you are navigating or you are browsing, so like this information will be sent to the server. Okay, so this is what, okay, the request header. These are some additional information which goes to the server with the request body from user end, basically from the browser, right? And each request body has request header. Same way, as I said, the same way we have the response, right? We have the response, and in response, what will be the response body and response header? So response body will be considered this code, right? That is coming. Apart from that, we have response headers, which you'll see here on top. Generally, response header will be. So here also some common things will be there. So their definition is also like that. These are some additional information sent by the server with the response body to the user, right? These information include accept ranges, cache control, connection, content, language. Yeah, these things are there. Each response body has response headers. So here you can see something, cache control, content type, a date, okay, expiry, something is there, then cookies is there, right? So again, we do not have to remember this. We do not have to understand or go in that much details of this, right? We have to just understand that, yeah, these things are there. Okay, now you'll ask me why these are there, why these headers are there, why the request headers are there, and why the response headers are there, what is their work, right? A request we understand, request body we understand, response, that is coming, the response body, that also we understand, but why they are there, right? So see, this request and response, not the request and response, this request headers and response headers, they makes each user action, right? That is each request unique to the server, so that server can recognize that request uniquely out of so many same requests, right? And sends the correct response. You understand why they are there, why these headers are there? See, this Amazon, right? I'll tell you, the Amazon. is being used by lakhs of people, right? Lakhs of people. Now who is sending what? How the Amazon will remember? Suppose I'll just tell you that you open two Mozilla Firefox, or you open two Google Chrome. Okay, you open two Google Chrome. In both the Google Chrome you open Amazon only, right? Amazon. And in another also you open Amazon, right? In one Google Chrome, where you open Amazon, there you search for Nike shoe, right? Nike shoe. And in other you search for Adidas shoe, right? Adidas. So will it never ever happen that where you are searching Nike, there you will get Adidas result, and where you are searching Adidas, there you will get Nike result? Will this happen? No, this will never happen. No, never, right? You know why? Because of this request header. Even though you will say that your laptop is same, your IP address is also same, right? uh, then also how the server knows that from which browser you search for Nike? The person is also same, and from which browser you search Adidas. So from which browser the Nike request came, I have to send the Nike result there. And from which browser, even the browser is also same, right? But which verse, which instance the Adidas request came, I have to send the Adidas result there. How he is knowing, right? How he is knowing? Because of this request and response header. Okay, right? So that is what request header and response headers, and that is all about HTTP protocol. Apart from that, in HTTP protocol there are two more things. So request response header, we got the idea. There are two more things, that is request method and a status code. So request method, so see, whenever you do any activity, there will be a request method. If you see here the method, post, get, generally you'll see get. Sometimes we'll see post. Even if you click on that request, you'll see the method. This is called method, right? So that is request method. I'll talk about this method soon. And then we have a status code. You see 200, 204, all these things. So that is called a status code. So two more components are there, right? So let us talk about methods first. Method. So HTTP request methods or types. So in general, there are 8 types of request methods, HTTP request method. But in the out of them, 4 are very famous. So which 4? The get request, the post request, the put request, and the delete request. Okay. Generally, you see here. Generally, most often you'll see get request. You'll see always. Few time you'll see a post request, and very often you will see a put request or delete request. Very often, right? Now, uh, which kind of request will be get request, right? This request, get, pushed, put, delete, yeah, we have to understand them, because in interview, in API testing interview, this is asked, right? Very crucial, the types, the HTTP method type. Okay, so see, whenever we send a request simply, and you are not sending any data with that, you are not sending any data with that, right? So that will be always a get request. Fine, you're getting the idea. Means suppose I'm clicking somewhere, simply I'm clicking, I'm not sending any data. Any data means I'm not sending any username or password, or I'm not sending any user input, I'm just clicking. Currently see, okay, I'll show you. Let me suppose I can open here F12 Amazon. So see, I just sent Amazon request. Okay, so you see all are get request. Even the main request which is on top, generally we have to focus on the main request, that is type HTTP HTML request. So it will be get request, right? Let me clear this. Let me click on this freeze. Okay, let me click on this. Ignore those extra requests being made. Let me click on this freeze. Okay, so I'm just clicking on this freeze. So again, I clicked on that freeze, and in response I get all the refrigerators, or you can say freeze, right? And here one more request got generated, and that request is present on top. The type of that request will be HTTP HTML request, right? HTML request, that is here. So you see, it's a get request. You're getting the idea. So when we just simply uh, browse anything, we just click anything, we do not send anything, that time it's a get request. It's always a get request. Okay, simply we send the request without any inputs. That is always a get request. Then put post request. Post request will be will happen when you submit some data, when you send some data. So currently if you see on that page, if you remember, I sent the username, right? I sent the phone number, so it was a post request. See the sign in, right? With that phone number also went. This thing is also called as payload. Remember the user input that we send from our side to the server, that is also called as what? Payload. Okay, payload. Fine. In API testing they call it as payload. So it's a post request, remember. So whenever you send something, some user input from your side, it will be a post request. Okay, and generally you will see either get request or post request very often. Then two more requests are also there, which you see very less in number. They are put and delete. Put and delete you will see very rare on any website, right? Any web application. But in API testing, okay, generally you will get the put and delete request often. So put request, see, put request do two things. First thing is, suppose you have to update something. Okay, suppose you have to update something, means in the application, right? Some let us say some data is already there and you want to update that data, so you are sending a request with some payload. Payload means user input that is going to update the existing data in the application. So that time it will be a put request, right? Remember. Plus right, so that is one work the put request does. Sometime put request is also used to uh, uh, you can say it is also used to uh, here I have written create a new value. Okay, here generally do not go with this definition. Here I have written more clear definition, right? Get just to fetch information, post to create a new value, or to send some data, and put will be to update any existing value, and sometime to create a new value also. Okay, so this is common. Remember, that is a tricky thing in, that is a tricky difference between post and push. Generally post does whenever you send some user inputs from your our side, it will be post request. Or whenever you are creating some new value, right, you are sending some new value, suppose you are registering new thing, right, you are registering your new username password first time, generally that will be post request. Put request is used to update any existing information on the application, and sometime put is also used to create new entry, new value, right? So sometime, okay, sometime put does what the post does. Okay, but very rare you'll face put. And then delete. Delete is used to just delete some information from the application. Database means what? Application mainly. Okay, apart from that there are some four more uh, requests are there, which are not so important, but yeah, they are there. Options, head, connect, trace. In that you'll see options, you'll see very often, and trace also you'll see sometime, right? But we do not have to worry about this. Generally these four are very important. Okay, these, they are also called they can also be referred, this post, get, put, delete, or methods can also be referred as CRUD operation in if you have learned the SQL query language, right? SQL, in that CRUD operation is there, right? Create, read, update, delete. So what this CRUD operation does, same thing this post, get, put, delete op method does. Okay, so that can be correlated. Now then we have the last one, that is the last schema or last component is the status code, right? So about a status code, as I said, there are, you see this status code, this 200 series, right? So like that there are 500 five kinds. Okay, five types of status codes are there. One is 100 series status code, one is 200 series status code, one is 300 series status code, one is 400 series status code, and one is 500 series status code. We'll talk about this not now, but long, like, yeah, after some session, after 20 days or yeah, 20, in general 20 days, we'll talk about this, because currently it's waste discussing about this different type of status code. Okay, but yeah, they are there. Those all will be covered, do not worry. Next, let us talk about the transactions. Okay. Then, and cookies and cache. That's this. Transactions again. So what is transaction, you know, right? Any user action is a transaction. That is what I told. But in performance testing, uh, any user action cannot be a transaction, right? Understand? So a transaction is an user action performed by an user on a web page which generates HTTP HTML request to the server in the form of URL, right? I have shown you that whenever we do something, request is generated. So whenever we are doing something, that is called user action in layman's language, but technically it will be called as one transaction. So whenever we do some one transaction, a request will be generated, a different request will be generated, right? In the form, these requests are of type HTML, right? HTML request, right? And in return we receive the response. Apart from that, with that request, what will be there? Request header will be going, and the response that comes with that response headers comes right from the server side. Now, okay, that is fine, but every user action cannot be called as a transaction. Remember, a user action can only be called as a valid transaction in performance testing when it generates some request to the server and some response is received. This is very important. Okay, remember, see, any user action you cannot call as a transaction in performance testing. Likewise, I'll tell you, suppose let us go back to our image. Fine. Let me do what. Hmm, let me yeah, see what I'll do here. Some calls, these requests are also you see this request, this thing, they are also called as calls, right? You can call them calls. Some calls are being made, ignore that. These are being made since this application is you can say live. This kind of application are called live application. Live means production, you can say production also. Production means in use, real, in real time they are in use. So what happens, there are some calls which get even you do not do anything. You see, I'm not doing anything even though these requests are being made, because the websites, these applications collect some informations, right? So even you do not do anything, this kind of request being automatically made from the browser to the server. This kind of calls are called ajax calls also, right? Ajax calls, right? We will be talking about these ajax calls again later on, or asynchronous calls, right? Asynchronous call. For now we do not have to worry about them. Okay, so let me clear. I'm clearing, right? I'm clearing now. I've cleared. Now let me, I'm clicking here. See, oh, shit. Just a second. Okay, now I'm clicking here. See, anything happened there? No, nothing happened, right? You got the idea what I'm saying? Here, three dots are there, right? And I'm clicking on that, the three lines on left hand side, right? Three lines are there, and I'm clicking on that, and this menu comes, right? A sidebar menu comes. So when I'm doing that, does anything happens here? No. Again, I'll show you. Ignore these calls, right? Again, I'm seeing, because these are repeated calls being made automatically. So we have to ignore that. For now, focus that when I'm clicking on that three line, you see, sir, that sidebar came, but there nothing happened, This you have to ignore again because it's coming repeatedly. When I'm clicking that time, nothing is happening, right? You see, again, I'll just a second. This calls, it's coming in middle, so it will be confusing. Now, oh, yeah, let me click immediately. So see, anything happened, nothing happened. This got later on it got being called request, right? Ignore. So likewise, right? It doesn't mean that you click somewhere anywhere and you can call that as a transaction. No, you can call any user action. See, any user action can only be called as a transaction, a valid transaction in performance testing when you see some calls, some requests being made here, right? You're getting the point. Let me show you through Flipkart. Here it's a good example. See, I am again here also some calls, automatic calls will being made. So you have to ignore. See, I'm hovering my mouse. You see here the some these are getting listed, right? Or I'm hovering my mouse here. Some things is getting listed. So this hovering your mouse and getting this all displayed, it's not a transaction. You can say it's a user action because user is hovering the mouse, but it will not be a transaction. You understand the point, right? It can a user action can only be called as valid transaction when you see some request being made here, like when I do something here, right? Suppose I click somewhere or I do something, let me click on this shoe. So when I'm clicked on this shoe, then I see a request being made here, and parallelly I see a request being made here also, right here. Okay, fine. So when I do something and when I see a proper request being made here, those kind of user action can only be called as one transaction, right? Okay, understood. So that this we have to take care. That is what I have written here, that user action can only be called a valid transaction in performance testing when it is generating some request to the server and some response is received. Examples of like launch transaction, homepage launch transaction, then login transaction, select a product, checkout, sign out. These are the examples. We'll see more homepage. And yeah, that's what the JavaScript call or the checkboxes or drop down menu items or pop-ups, these are generally not a part of performance testing, right? And many times are not captured by performance testing tool unless and until they generate a valid request and response, right? That is what I'm talking about. Like suppose you are that's what I told, or I have shown you that I am hovering the mouse here, right? And this list drop down list are coming, but on here nothing is happening. So just hovering the mouse will not be a transaction. This user action cannot be called as a transaction. That same thing in Amazon I told, right? Suppose this three dot, if I click on that and on left hand side you see in this here network tab, nothing is happening, right? uh, these were ignored because these were already there. Apart from that, nothing is happening. So this clicking on this three dot, you cannot say that is a transaction in performance testing, right? Same way, suppose sometime you'll see on a website pop-ups comes where you have to click on yes or no, like, right? Suppose you are clicking on yes or no. So when you are clicking on that option yes or no, you cannot call it as a transaction until unless you see that hey, clicking on yes or clicking on no is generating a request, right? Otherwise those, if you are clicking on yes or no and you see that here no request is being made, they will not be called. That is also a user action, right? The user is doing something, but that will not be called as a transaction. Remember that. Okay, likewise any example, even suppose sometime a drop down menus will be there and from that you have to choose something, right? You have to choose something, right? So you have to select something. So when you are selecting something and you see here nothing is happening, so that selection will not be called as a transaction. But if you are choosing and something is happening, that then time it will be called as one valid transaction, right? So this difference you have to remember. I'll show you in Flipkart only here. Let us say I just clicked on shoes, right? Now here you see some check boxes are there, right? Now what I'll do, I'll click on Bata shoe, let us say. I'll put a check mark on Bata shoe. So here it will be a transaction. Why? Because you'll see when I click on Bata shoe, a request will be made and only the Bata shoe result will be updated here, right? So let me put a check mark here. See, only Bata result has been generated and a proper request has been made here. You can check this post request. Why it is a post request? Because we send input, we send a choice from our side, the Bata choice. That's why it's a data we are sending, a input choice we are sending. So it will be a post request, right? And all the Bata related thing is displayed. So here this check mark or selecting checkboxes is a transaction, but sometime on some website you will see that putting a check mark or something, doing something, nothing is happening. So that time it's not a transaction. So this is the difference. You have to understand what is a valid transaction in performance testing. Okay, right? Fine. Then uh, there can be a multiple transaction on a single web page. On one web page there can be multiple transaction. Like you must have seen that suppose I'm clicking here, suppose I'm clicking here, so suppose I'm clicking on here, so every time the page is changing, right? Again it's a new page is coming, right? New page is coming. So it doesn't mean that every time I do something, I do one transaction, and every time a new page will occur. No, on same page also there can be many transactions. Suppose on the same page, I clicked on that the tools, and this all gets loaded. Now on the same page, what I'll do here, some option is there. Suppose I just need boss tools, right? Boss tools. So I'll click on boss tools. So only you see the request will be made for boss tools, and only boss tools will be loaded for me. But total page didn't change, right? So on a single page only there can be multiple valid transactions. Okay, there can be multiple valid transactions, right? Then yeah, and this one last thing you have to remember. For now I'll okay, I'll show you, do not worry. See, sometime one transaction or one valid transaction, one user action consists of one http html request, right? Only one http html request. Or sometime it can consist of multiple or set of, right, set of multiple http html requests made to the server, right? So as an example, this is Google Chrome. In Google Chrome also you can see this network tab and all the thing, but in Mozilla Firefox it looks little bit beautiful. So initially when you are practicing, do practice all this thing in Mozilla Firefox. So I'm going to open one website. See, this is one a small website. Okay, when I entered this website, when this website gets loaded, so here on left hand side, on right hand side in this call, if you see, uh, uh, this is the request, right? Apart from these are all CSS file, JS file, you can see here, JS file, okay, JS file, ICO. These all we have to ignore, right? Because these are embedded resources. We have to focus on the main request. This is the main request, right? I can click on this, and I can click on header, and you see it's matching, right? This is the main request. So when I did one user action here, I did one valid transaction. I entered this URL and this page got loaded. So what happened? Only one request. So I did one transaction and only one request went to the server, right? Sometime what happened when you do one transaction, so multiple requests can go to the server. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to log in. So here already the username and password is done, kept. Now let me clear this and let me click on login. So now when I clicked on login, so you see three requests. Okay, and then this page is coming fine. When this page comes, it's fine. Here some JS files are there, ignore that. Let us scroll up. So here you see three main requests. One request here, then another request here, and then another request here. Three requests. Okay, you can click on each. Here, this is a post request. Why post request? Because with this I sent the username and password, where you can see in payload. If you click on this payload, you can see this is the username and password we sent, right? And the request with that request, and the request header is also there, right? So the concept which I'm taking, it applies everywhere. Okay, so this is the first request, then this is the second request, and then this is the third request. Third request. Apart from these are embedded resources, we have to ignore them. But three requests. So you got the idea. Sometime one transaction can generate only one request to the server, and sometime one transaction, it was only one transaction, right? I just entered the username and password, and I click on login button. So clicking on login button, again it's one transaction, right? But this time it has generated three requests to the server. So that is the point, that sometime one transaction can generate one request to the server, and sometime one transaction can get multiple requests to the server. Okay, multiple requests. This is what we have to identify. You have to practice little bit to identify, right? The main way to identify is, first you ignore any of the CSS file, JavaScript file, right? You have to focus on the main, the type called document. Those will be the main to analyze them more. In Mozilla Firefox, these things looks better, right? Because in Mozilla Firefox, it will, their type will be given, because these all will be of type HTML. Okay, HTML type. Here it will be there. Dismiss. Yeah, HTML type. The main request will be of type HTML, right? So from that we can analyze. So what? So coming later on, there will be one slide, right, where I'll be showing you which types of requests will be considered as the main request, right? Main request means, you got the point, like here three requests are there. So how we identify, because all these three are HTML requests, so those are those requests are the main request we have to focus on. Transaction was only one, but three requests being made. Apart from that, here this XHR request that you see, they are also the main request only. So I'll come back to this application later on, right? Again, so it's, so we just did one transaction, but it's you see here there are three requests, right? And apart from that, around 11 or 12 XHR requests are being made. Okay, so about this XHR or here also, I'll talk later on, right? So you see, one, we did only one transaction, then three requests on top we see, and then some multiple XHR requests. So around 12 to 15 requests being made, right? Is being made, and we just did one transaction. Okay, so that is what we have to understand, right? So these things are the, this is what, if you understand, the working will be easy, right? So that is what you have to understand, that one transaction or one user action consists of one HTML request or a set of multiple HTML request made to the server, right? Sometime it will be one, sometimes set of multiple. Okay, it depends. In the same website, right, you see, in the same website, on the previous page there was only one request, and on this login page there were multiple requests, right? So it can happen, it can happen. And in that when there are multiple requests being made, so in that, in them there will be one main request, and there will be few redirecting requests, right? Along with that there will be embedded resources. So embedded resources are always there. Okay, like fonts and svg files, right? JavaScript file, these are always there. We do not focus on that, right? CSS files will be there. We do not worry about them. And each of these HTTP requests which are being made, they're also called as calls, or they are also called as APIs. Okay, so going forward, when I may call calls, so calls means what, you will get that idea, right? Calls means request, or many people call it as a API. So API means also a request. Okay, a request. API call, they call API call, right? Means a request, HTTP request. Now the last thing about the HTTP protocol, that is cookies and cache. Cache and cookies. So first we'll talk about cache. So what is in browser, there is a concept called browser cache, right? So this cache, it's a storage area in the browser memory where few static components or file are cached or stored locally whenever we visit or browse, whenever we visit and browse a web application. So what happens whenever using a browser, whenever you visit a application, a web application, so when the web application gets loaded, so some of the few static component is cached or stored in a storage in the browser memory. These files include any document building that web page, such as HTML, CSS, JavaScript, image, right? So this happens. Why this happens, I'll tell you. First, let me show you. So I'll show you this using Google Chrome. In Google Chrome, it looks little bit easy. So there is shortcut to clear history, right? We have to clear history. History are there. So there is shortcut to clear history. Control, control plus shift, right? Shift plus delete. Okay, and delete if you press. So control shift delete if you press, here it will come like clearing the browsing history. You can click on advanced tab and you can click on all time. So here you'll see some menus, right? So you see here cookies are there and caches are there. Currently, for now, we are talking about caches. It's not like that it's there in only in Google Chrome. No, this cookies cache concept is everywhere. Okay, it's not browser specific. It's a it's a technology, you can say. It's a service which is implemented on any web application. Okay, so first we'll talk about cache. Now you see cache, it's showing 198 MB, right? So let me do what? Let me uncheck this all. I have just checked the cache here, and a few things are checked here. Ignore that. Okay, ignore that. No need to worry. So cache I have selected, and I'm going to clear. Right. So let me clear. Now again, if I press Control Shift Delete, so you see cache size, it's showing less than 1 MB, right? Showing less than 1 MB. Now what I'll do, I'll visit some website. So I'll visit Flipkart. I'll visit Amazon. I'll visit one more website, Myntra. Okay, fine. So I visited 3 website, right? Right. Now I just opened 3 website. I have just opened 3 website. Now what I'll do, I'll just press Control Shift Delete again. So Control Shift Delete. Now see cache, it increased to 8 MB. Right? It increased. Now let me do what? Let me navigate on Flipkart. Let me open some pages on Flipkart. Let me navigate. Let me browse multiple pages. So now the cache means just now I have shown the cache was 8 MB, right? 8 point something MB. Now I'm browsing different pages on the Flipkart. I'm just clicking, right? I'm just clicking. Okay. So now again, what I'll do, I'll press Control Shift Delete. Now see it increased to 14 MB. You see, earlier it was less than 1. Then I opened 3 website. It went 8 MB. Now on Flipkart only, I just visited multiple pages on Flipkart. It reached to 14 MB. So what is happening? What happens is when you visit any website or you visit multiple pages of any website, so some static component may be like those from the embedded resources only, some maybe some CSS file or maybe some JavaScript file or maybe some images, they will be stored in our browser memory. That is called cache memory. Stored, actually in technical world, that is called cached. It is called cached, not stored. We call it as a, it is, they are cached. Okay, cached. Or you can, if you are lemon, if you cannot understand, think it is a stored, right? It is stored in browser memory. Now you'll ask me why it is stored, right? Why this is there? So this is stored so that, suppose first time you got your laptop and first time you are visiting Flipkart, right? So like, so what will happen, this kind of thing will be stored in your browser. Now again, next time when you visit Flipkart, so already some things of the, some component of the Flipkart page will be stored in your memory, right? In your browser memory, in your the browser using which you are browsing. Suppose I'm browsing through Google Chrome now, so in that it is stored. So next time, maybe tomorrow, day after tomorrow, whenever again I visit Flipkart, so what will happen, that time response time will be response time of loading of the Flipkart or these pages will become less. Why it will become less is uh, because already this kind of thing will be stored. So they will be, when you are revisiting, they will be called from the cache. I'll show you, right? I'll show you. Let me do one thing. Let me control shift delete. Let me again, cache is 14 MB, right? Let me clear. Control shift delete again. See, it's less than 1 MB, right? Now what I'll do, I'll just open F12 first, and here currently, yesterday I told you to, we have to put a check mark here in disable cache. For now, what I'm doing, let me since I've cleared the cache, right, let me uncheck this. For now, let me uncheck. I'm unchecking and I'm loading the flipkart.com. So when I'm loading the flipkart.com, first, this is again first time I'm visiting. Why first time? You'll ask me, you already visited, then how I can say first time? Yeah, because I cleared the cache. So when I'm clearing the cache, right, and again I'm visiting Flipkart, means it's like again I'm first time new user to the website. Okay, I'm first time again visiting. So now you see, suppose this few here images are there, right? You see it's showing some size here. It's size here, it's showing, right? Now I'll do what, I will clear, I'll this clear and just refresh this page. I'll clear and I'll just refresh this page. Now when I refresh this page, you see again, for those images only, you see JPEG or something, it's not showing any size here. What it is showing, memory cache. Means what, when I refresh this page, means I'm revisiting the page. So what happened, these things were loaded in the memory. They got they called from the browser memory only, they got loaded, and that's why you see like this. And that is the reason you must have observed that this time the page got loaded little bit faster, right? Little bit faster compared to the previous time when I visited. So that is the implementation of cache, right? Now next is cookies. Cache is very simple thing. More important is cookies. Okay, so cache helps in decreasing the response time on a web application at user end whenever that user visits that application repeatedly. Now cookies. So cookies are a small piece of data sent by web application to the browser and then vice versa when the user visits it, right? These are stored in that browser using which the user is browsing that website. These are parts of header. Okay, got the point? These are a small piece of data sent by web application to the browser and then vice versa. First, this data, this cookie will be coming from web application to the browser, and then vice versa, from the browser it will be going to the web application, right? Whenever the user visits the application, right, they are stored in browser only, using which the user is browsing that website. And these cookies are part of headers. Okay, they are part of headers. So we'll talk about this later on. First, let me show you. So again, I'm here on Flipkart, and let me do what, control shift delete. So now you see cookies here, and now we'll talk about cookies option. So cache, I'm removing cookies, right? Now you see it's showing cookies from 34 sites. I will put a check mark and I'll clear. Cookies is cleared. Again, I'll just revisit. Cookies is none, right? It's none. Now let me do what? Let me just open Flipkart again. So I'm just opening Flipkart again. Now let me put Control Shift Delete. Now it's showing cookies from 3 sites, right? 3. Okay, fine. Now I'll do one thing here. I will browse something. What? This toy. Okay, toy. Suppose I need this toy. So let me click on this, and then let me click on add to cart. Right, fine. So you see this toy is added in this cart. Okay, it's there in my cart. Okay, now I'll do what? I'll open one more Google Chrome, and I'll click on Flipkart here. You see, I open another Google Chrome, and again I open Flipkart only. And you see here on top right corner in cart, it's showing something. Let me click on this cart. You see, it's already showing one uh, that toy added. I added toy in another Google Chrome. I open one more Google Chrome, and I just visited Flipkart. There, it's automatically showing that one toy is there. Now I do what? Let me click anywhere. Let me again press Control Shift Delete, and let me, you see it's showing a cookie site here. Cookie is showing from 4 site. Cookie is selected. Let me clear, right? Clear. Again, let me press Control Shift Delete, and there is no cookie, right? Now I'm on this tab. Let me just refresh this page. See, I refresh the page. The toy went away. Nothing is there. Same way here. Let me refresh this page. See, the toy went away. Nothing is there. You got the idea what cookies does? Cookies remembers the user session on the website. Okay, and this user session are generally they are saved in a small piece of data. Okay, a small piece of data. I'll show you how cookies look. So cookie remember the user session for that user on that web application, and hence it helps HTTP protocol to remember its previous state, because HTTP protocol is a stateless protocol, right? Remember I told you one thing. HTTP protocol is a stateless protocol, means it does not remember its previous state or its or information. Okay, so cookie remembers the user session for that user on the web application, and hence it helps HTTP protocol to remember its previous state, because HTTP protocol is a stateless protocol. Because a stateless protocol means it doesn't remember what happened just before. It's like Gajni. Okay, it doesn't remember. Fine. So this cookie helps in doing. And if the cookie is deleted, it will not be you see the website didn't it was not able to remember what happened. Okay, the same thing can happen. So the cookie helps in remembering the user session, right? User session, right? User session. Now I'll give you few more example. Let us say Google, right? Gmail. So suppose you do one thing, you log into your Gmail. Okay, suppose I'm going to sign in. So first time it will ask for my email and phone number, and then it will ask for my password. And then when I log in, my inbox page will come, right? Inbox page will come. Now we do one thing. You do not on top logout will be there, right? You do not log out. You simply close your browser. You close your laptop, and maybe tomorrow again, or after 1 hour again, you open laptop and again come to the Gmail. You'll see it will not ask you to log in again. Directly you will land on the inbox. Okay, or you can try this Facebook also, right? If you use Facebook, you can open Facebook and you can try, right? So how it's happening? Because the your activity, your session that you are already logged in, that will be stored in a value called cookie value, right? And again, next time, suppose you first time you logged in, so that information will be stored in a value called cookie value. And then you just checked your mail and you didn't logged out, right? You just close the browser, you just close the laptop. Again, tomorrow when you are opening and coming to Gmail, it will not ask you to log in, because you are already logged in and yesterday only, and that information was saved in a cookie value. And next time when you are logging in and when you are coming to this page, the request is going, right? This request is going along with that request, that cookie value will, which is already there from yesterday, that will be going to the server. Server will recognize, hey, that fellow yesterday only logged in, do not ask him to log in again, and directly he will send you the your inbox page. Okay, but you do what, uh, then you do what, you log in again. You can try, you log in, you do not sign out, but you clear your cookie, you clear your cookies, and again you visit. You see, you will be again asked to log in. Why? Because your the information that was stored, that got deleted because you cleared the cookie. And again, when you are trying to log in, since that previous information is not there, it will again ask you to log in only. Same thing happened here, right? When I visited, I in this Flipkart, I added something here that was there. Then again, right, let us say I open one more Google Chrome just to show you. So it's like that. You can think like that. You want to purchase something, how cookies help us, that I'm going to tell, right? So suppose you want to purchase something, right? So you added 5 items in your cart, but you do not want to buy it today. You have just selected and kept in the cart. You want to buy on the Friday, because on Friday you are going to get your salary, right? So so again on Friday, you will open Flipkart, and automatically these 5 items will be available there, right? That is the help of cookie. That is how the cookie is helping us. Directly you have to just log in and pay and just buy, right? That's why I opened one more Google Chrome and I have shown you, and I went to cart, and that the toy was there also. But when I cleared the cookies, the information was deleted. And again, when I'm refreshing, when I'm sending this request again, so when this request again is going, but with that the previous cookie information is not going, so server is not getting any idea that this fellow has added anything in the cart or not, so he's again sending blank page to me. So the same thing happens with the Gmail also. If you do not log out and you simply close your Gmail, tomorrow if you just visit Gmail, it will not ask you to log in again, because it's your personal laptop, right? You can do that if you wish, because who will, suppose you have, your job is that you have to check your email every day, right? Or every 1 hour you have to check, or every 5 hour you have to, who do you always log in? No, you'll be irritated, right? So this is how these things helps, right? So that is what cookies is. And cookies helps the user session, right? This so and that is how it makes the transaction unique, and it makes the transaction easy also, right? Easy, it helps us to doing the transaction means doing the activity easy, with easy and secure on the application, right? Application. Okay. And how this cookie comes and it is stored, I'll just show you. uh, in Amazon I'll show you, it will look a little bit better here. Plus in Google, Mozilla Firefox, the things will look better. So I'm going to clear here also. You press Control Shift Delete, you will get all these things here. Cookie caches are there. I'm going to delete here. Right. And now what I'll do, I'll press F12. I'll visit Amazon first time. Okay, because what is the meaning of first time here? I'll tell. Do not worry. For now, let me visit Amazon.in. I visited. Now see, when I visited Amazon.in, so this is the request here. The request went. Click here. You see in the response, and remember the cookie are part of header. Okay, cookies value are the part of header. So first time when you visit any website, the cookie will be The cookie will be sent from the web application to the user or to the browser. So you see here, you remember, let us say you remember this session ID. Okay, fine. I hope you can remember. It's something. I just let me copy and let me. Why I can't copy? Okay, man. Forget. I'll just write here somewhere. Last. It's 228857. Okay, 228857. And again, this is time. Ignore that session ID. You remember? Fine. Now, what I'll do? Let me delete. I'll do something. So it was present where it was present in response header, in the top response header it was present. Right now I'll do something. I'll click on this fridge, this appliance. I'll click, and I clicked on this appliance. So again, one more request generate. Let me go to that request here, and now you will go to request header. So see that value here, right? So what happened when I first time visited, this value came from the server side only. From up server side means application side. It was there in my response header first time. Here on top, response header will be there, and then whatever action I'll be doing, next action, next user action, whatever I'll be doing, with that every user action, that ID will be there, which will be remembered. Plus with that, you see some more information like some token and some this kind of value will be there. These are the cookie value actually. This all thing will be called as cookie. And this is what you see, this remembers the thing. Suppose I'll add something in the cart, this value will be remembering that. Or I have logged in the Gmail, this value will be remembering that. And next time again when I'm visiting tomorrow or somewhere, so that I'll directly log into Gmail without again logging. I mean, so I'll directly land to inbox page, right, without signing in, because of this. And when you are clearing that, let me clear that. Okay, Control Shift Delete. Delete. I've cleared this, right? And let me click somewhere on TV or somewhere in this TV. This is the request. You see, this time uh, that session ID is not there in request header because that got deleted. It's something new. It's not that one. This time something new came. Okay, because that previous one got deleted, right? So this is how the cookies remembers the thing, and this is how the cookies looks. They are in alphanumeric format, and this is how they remember the thing. You cannot understand that, but the server, the application understand this, right? You will be thinking like how this value is remembering that I have added one toy in my cart, but it remembers. Okay, so that is what cache cookies concept in browser. Now user session. So user session means, see, whenever you are first time visiting the website, first time visiting means what? You are using a browser, and first time you visit Flipkart or Amazon. So what happened when you first time visit Flipkart or Amazon? So some cache will be stored and some cookies will be stored, right? And again, next time when you are visiting Flipkart, Amazon, every time what will happen? So first time when you visited, you were new user, or you start a new user session. Again, next time when you are repeatedly visiting, so you are not a new user because you are already some cookies is saved, some cache are saved, and that is being used, and you are repeatedly it's being used whenever you are visiting. So you are not new user. But again, when you are deleting the cookies and cache, and again you are visiting that website, so again you are visiting as a new user. Okay, new user. So that is difference between existing session and new user session. And in performance testing, generally we always implement new user session every time in performance testing, right, while recording and replaying. So the example of this cookie and cache, I'll tell you, like there is an Hotstar. Earlier this used to happen, now it's not happening. So see, in Hotstar what happens, whenever IPL will go, like few last month only, last month there was cricket match between India Pakistan, right? So suppose who do not have Hotstar account. So earlier what happened? Hotstar used to show you 5 minutes of free, right? 5 minute free match, right? And you know, in 5 minutes, generally 1 over, right? On 1 over. And nowadays all matches are generally 2020, right? 2020, 2020 over, like that, right? Not that much lengthy. So in 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes, 1 over is generally completed, right? Now, right. So any user who was not having Hotstar, what he will do, he will visit Hotstar first time. He will watch for 5 minutes free. Once 5 minutes is over, then Hotstar will say him that, hey, create account, pay money, then you can see uh, rest. Now that fellow will do what? He will clear the cookies and cache, and again he will close the browser, and again he will open the browser, and again he will visit Hotstar. So again, what is he is there? Again he is a new user, and again he can watch free 5 minutes. So that was happening, and that used to happen. But now that this Hotstar has, these people have changed that policy because of this issue only. Right, nowadays if you visit Hotstar, so they are asking that please enter your phone number, and they will ask you to, they will send you a OTP, and then only they will allow you to watch the 5 minute free, right? So every time you cannot enter new phone number, right? So because of this reason, they have come up with this practice, right? So nowadays it's not happening, but earlier this used to happen. So that is the power of new user session and old user session, right? Getting the different, and that is the use of cache and cookies. This is how the cookies helps the server in remembering that uh, that user was a new user or the old user, right? You're getting the point? Yeah. Now all what we discuss, all this thing, this all will be simulated in JMeter. These all things are simulated in performance testing, right? So that's why we have to understand this. So all above discussed browser behavior and HTTP protocol schema are simulated in JMeter to make this tool behave as a browser, which simulates the real user browser action and behavior. Okay. So that is what about HTTP protocol. Now moving back to the PTLC lifecycle where I left. So I left here, if you remember, uh, we were talking about phase 3. So in phase 3, first we identify we identify and document the business test scenario, or the user journey and the transaction, right? Then we do the script recording. Script recording is what? It's basically recording and capturing the request and response for each transaction or user action, right? For a particular business or test scenario. So you got the idea what we record? We record each transaction request and response. There will be one scenario, right, on which you will be working. And in that scenario, there will be multiple transaction, right? And when you do that transaction, some request will be there, some response will be there. So we have to capture that. We have to record that. That is what a script recording is. Okay. That is the second step in this phase 3. Once recording is done, then we do enhancement. Okay. So in enhancement, what we do in enhancement, it's a very big phase. Enhancement is a long phase. Okay, big phase, long phase, you can say lengthy phase. So in that we do correlation, parameterization, putting assertion, use of function, writing some code if required, test data preparation, settings in tool. These all we have to do. Once this is done, then we do the stabilization. Stabilization means just uh, making sure that our script, right, that we have made is ready, right? It's ready. Okay. So once this is done, stabilization is done, then we do the execution, test execution or user load generation. That is phase 4, right? So in these two phases only, in phase 3 and in phase 4 is where the any performance testing tool is involved, or you can say if we are here to learn JMeter, right? How the performance testing is done using JMeter. So this is the phase in which JMeter will be involved. In other, these two phases are here. Tool is not involved. Directly human intervention is there, right? Okay. Now few things. So we got the idea what is transaction in user action. Then see in manual testing, you'll what is script, right? You'll be confused. What is script? Yeah. So see in manual testing, generally when the manual tester, they are functional tester only, but they test the things manually, so we call it as a manual tester. So they use Excel, right, to do or to save their all work. They use Excel. Same thing, the automation tester, again they are also functional tester only, but they use code. They write some code to do the testing, right, like Selenium with Java or Python or UFT. So that is called as automation scripts and automation scripts, right? We call them as automation scripts. In performance, we use performance testing tool, and here we call performance scripts. So here scripts means what, scripts is kind of, you can say, a kind of uh, story using which the user will act. In our film industry, what is the meaning of script, right? You must have heard director will give the script to the actor, and then actor will act according to the script, right? So here also script is same thing. Script is a kind of, you can say, it will be kind of something, right? uh, let us say in automation, it's the combination of Selenium and Java, a code, Selenium and Java code, using which the tool works and it tests, right? So that is called automation script. Same way in performance, we prepare a script, right, using which using PT tool, and using which the users, right, virtual users generated by PT tool, they will be working, right? They will be putting the load and all those things. So that is called script, right? Got the idea? Very simple script. Now language. So see, in LoadRunner, right, what is LoadRunner? Long back in first session I told, LoadRunner is a very highly featured but commercial performance testing tool, right? Okay, so in that C or JavaScript language is used. In JMeter, Java, JavaScript, Groovy or Python language is used. Now you'll ask me, uh, I, I think there is no need of this, right? Because you'll be getting confused. See, I told you, right, in JMeter, we do not need to uh, have any idea of knowing any coding, right, to use JMeter. But in 20% of cases, right, we have to use some coding. So that time we use Java, right, Java. But generally, initially, do not have to worry about. But yeah, wherever it is required, there is a session where I'll be showing the thing. That is what we are talking about, BeanShell use cases, right, where we use code, right, Java code, how we use code, right? And I have some real-time scenarios, okay, where I'll be showing you how to use the codes, right, the Java codes, and why we use. Okay, but in 80% of cases, 80% of use of JMeter, no, there is no need to no need of use of any code, so no need to worry. Okay, no, there is no need to worry. So that is for today, right? So thank you. We'll meet in day 5 tomorrow. Okay, so thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you.